Please get ready for a dictation of transcription number 336 and 337 from Sir Kailash Chandra magazine. 5 seconds. Start. Mr. Deputy Chairman, I am glad that you have given me a little opportunity to reply to some of the points that have been raised in regard to the improvement trust by the speakers who have spoken this morning and this afternoon. In the first place, I would like to record my gratitude to them for the very reasonable way in which they have spoken and the reasonable demands they have made and the assurances that they have asked for. Now, I would like to assure the members of this House that the Improvement Trust is no longer a profit-making body. It is true that when it was set up before the last World War, it was set up on the premise that the Improvement Trust should acquire land, then put it out to auction, and after having got the largest amount of money for it, with that money it had to clear the slums. I am absolutely in agreement with the opinion of this House that it was not a right step, but I may say that ever since we got our independence, all this has stopped. 2,000 acres of land that belonged to the Improvement Trust were made over straight away to the refugees without any money at all. And because I was dissatisfied with the working of the Improvement Trust, I appointed the Improvement Trust Inquiry Committee, known as the Birla Committee, which put up a report, and one of the members has asked me as to what action we have taken on this particular report. Now, all the recommendations that could be taken action on at once by the executive authority were taken action on. But the main recommendation was for the appointment of one building authority for Delhi, which would eradicate the confusion that has existed over the last several years in the matter of so many authorities building, so many authorities planning without any really good plan as a result. The overall result has not been good, and it accounts for the sprawling nature of the buildings that have come up, of the colonies that have come up without any attention to drainage or sewerage. Simply because the government realized the difficulties of the refugees, the difficulties that they were facing in the matter of accommodation and many other things, very little interference really has been indulged in on the part of the government. The Delhi Development Authority, for the setting up of which a bill has been passed by both houses, and which authority is the first step towards the acceptance of the main recommendation of the Birla Committee report, that is to have only one authority in charge of buildings in Delhi. On this committee, this House is represented, the Lok Sabha is represented, and as I have said, the Delhi state government is also represented by elected members, so that nothing new is being done without reference to this committee, and this applies just as well to the Improvement Trust. As my honorable colleagues said, while moving this bill for consideration, the powers that are asked for the Delhi Improvement Trust are very, very small. They have got those powers as far as land is concerned, then only want these powers as far as buildings are concerned, because whatever we may say, the fact remains that in spite of warnings, unauthorized constructions are going up all the time, even after the Delhi Development Authority came into being in November last. I have given strict orders that no one is to be evicted, and nobody is evicted by the Improvement Trust, and nobody has been evicted without being provided with alternative accommodation. I would like some of the members, if they would, to come round with me and see what has been done. Only day before yesterday morning, I spent the entire morning from 9:30 to 1:30 visiting the slum areas and visiting the places to which they have been moved. If you come and see the people living in good quarters, much happier than they were before, you will know that they would not like to go back to where they were. I entirely agree that this is a human problem and it has to be tackled in a human way, and that we must not just turn out a person and let him wander about in the streets. We have got to see to it that he is accommodated, whether temporarily or alternatively, until he comes back to the place from where he was asked to go after the place has been rebuilt, or until he is given accommodation elsewhere where it is possible for him to earn his livelihood. Now, many refugee colonies have come up without any reference to what the needs of the people who dwell in those colonies are. If there is a colony where there are no cobblers, where there are no tailors, carpenters, and scavengers, then those belonging to those trades can actually be moved there. Sir, before I come to the main provisions of the bill, I would like to explain briefly the need for bringing in this measure. As it is known, the State Financial Corporations Act was passed in 1950 in order to enable the states to establish state financial corporations with the object of providing long-term credit to small and medium-scale industries. 3 years before that act was passed, the Industrial Finance Corporation Act was passed in 1940 in order to make medium and long-term credit more readily available to industrial concerns, particularly in circumstances where the normal banking facilities were not available to them. The Industrial Finance Corporation, during the first 3 years of its life, had made some progress in achieving these objectives and had acquired a certain amount of experience. Full use of the experience acquired by the Industrial Finance Corporation during the 3 years of its life was made in drafting the State Financial Corporations Act 1950. The jurisdictions of these two corporations were not overlapping because the Industrial Finance Corporation afforded the necessary credit facilities to industrial concerns of a comparatively large size. It could not possibly provide the same facilities to smaller concerns located throughout India to meet the regional demands, and therefore there was a demand from various states for the establishment of such institutions which may cater to the needs of the various states. So, under Section 26 of the State Financial Corporations Act, such corporations cannot grant accommodation to a single industrial concern for an amount exceeding 10% of the paid-up capital, which may not exceed a maximum limit of Rs 10 lakhs, whereas the Industrial Finance Corporation does not deal with applications for loans less than Rs 10 lakhs unless the loan application is from a state where the State Financial Corporation does not exist. So the House will appreciate that the state finance corporations have a very important role to play in the growth of small and medium-scale industries. The second 5-year plan lays considerable emphasis on basic and heavy industries, but the growth of small and medium-scale industries also finds an important place in the plan and in the country's economy. It is therefore necessary that the state financial corporations should be able to meet the requirements of the small-scale industries. With this view, last year the House will remember the State Financial Corporations Act 1950 was amended in order to make newly formed industrial concerns eligible for loans from the state financial corporations. Before the amendment was passed, the State Financial Corporation could only make loans to existing concerns and industrial concerns which were, so to say, in the offing, could get no financial help from the State Financial Corporation. It was thought, in view of the impact of industrialization and greater emphasis laid on the development of small and medium-scale industries, that the whole working of the state financial corporations, which were important corporate institutions catering to the needs of such industries, should be reviewed. It was felt that the activities of these corporations were not expanding or were not adequately meeting the requirements of the small and medium-scale industries due to certain structural defects or due to certain anomalies that were creeping in. Therefore, the Reserve Bank took the initiative of calling a conference of the representatives of the state financial corporations, and two such conferences were held in August 1950 and November 1960. These conferences recommended certain amendments to the Act. These were very carefully considered, and a draft bill was circulated to the various states. A number of states took very keen interest in the working of these corporations and made very useful suggestions, and the present bill incorporates some of the important recommendations of those conferences as well as the useful recommendations made by the various states. With this background, I would like to take the House to the important provisions of the bill, and I would briefly explain them. Clause 2 of the bill defines the industrial concern as given in the Principal Act. The Principal Act limits the scope of the activities of the corporation to only such concerns as are engaged or are to be engaged in the manufacture, preservation, or processing of goods, or in mining, or in the generation or distribution of electricity or any other form of power. In the absence of any clear definition of the phrase processing of goods, the corporations were finding it somewhat difficult to decide whether a particular concern fulfilled the necessary conditions to make them eligible for assistance by the corporation. Stop.